Hey there, Brody here with Let's Table It, where I have a prototype copy of Algae Inc. This is a Euro game for 1 to 4 players, as they have decided to work on a solo mode for this game. But each player works together at Algae Inc. using algae to make different types of products. Each player is ahead of each department. This will be either bioplastics, food, biofuel, or cosmetics. Algae is considered the unsung hero of the natural world, and now you will control a department in Algae Inc. to compete for the Department of the Month. You will recruit engineers to optimize your production line, scientists to research new technologies, and operators to expand your business. Now, you are in control of your department, focusing on other things that the other players are not focusing on, so players play differently. This is the board setup here. There are a lot of different parts and tiles to this game, but for good reason. This is the map board where you will be exporting your products to different locations. A point tracker goes around the outside of this. Here on the top left are milestones for each player to complete to gain points. The first player to complete the milestone will gain more points than the players who later fulfill those milestones. These go from easiest to maybe harder milestones as you go down, but these top 2 are having an export disk in the matching color region on the map. The next 2 have an export disk in at least 2 cities with a demand value of 5, or 3 cities with a demand value of 1. The next 2 in one action place export disks in at least 1 city with a demand value of 3, and another in a city with at least a demand value of 4. The other one is in one action place export disks in cities with a combined demand value of at least 8. This is to be done with multiple exports, but doing it in one action. The next 2 have export disks in both cities listed. The last 2 have export disks in at least 7 capital cities. And lastly, have at least 2 export disks in each of the 4 regions. The game has more of these, and it's random each time that you play the game. Setup will change this. And all of this might not make sense right now, but you can come back to this later after you kind of get a feel of the game. Here, each player will have a cube showing their energy level. You can go up and down on this track, and it's a resource that you might need to use to be more efficient in your processes. Also, at the end of the work week, you will gain possible bonuses according to where this marker is located on this track. These 2 tanks here are the byproduct tanks, which can also be helpful. Depending on the number of players in the game, you will place tiles on top of these areas. But when you produce byproducts, which will be biomass or bio-oil, they might be placed here. Byproducts can help you gain energy, moving their cube up on this track by burning the byproducts, or you can place it in these tanks to gain money. Each player's system of producing byproducts is a little bit different. These are the algae tanks with 4 different types of algae currently present in each. Each player will start the game only with 1 type of algae that they can work with, but they can use their engineers to work with the other types eventually. As players unlock their storage units for different algae, the amount of produced algae each week will increase. That brings us to the player boards. These are all different from player to player, and this will take some time setting up as all the tiles are placed in specific areas to start the game. You will be then taking actions to unlock tiles or upgrade different processes to produce certain products better or faster or differently to gain some type of benefit in the game. I might later make a video explaining all the 4 different departments, but here I have the cosmetics board that produces hand soap, toothpaste, and skin cream. Again, all from algae. You might choose to play with the food board, making algae burgers, drinks, nori, and candy, or the player making bioplastics, making cups and bags, or lastly, the biofuel board, which produces 1 type of product, biofuel. The biofuel is easy to produce, but refining it to high quality will take some patience. But again, we will stick with making hand soap, toothpaste, and skin cream. We will gain algae in these tanks to the left. We start with this type here, but can use our scientists to upgrade these tanks to hold different algae. And algae are represented by green cubes that will take different conveyor belts to eventually become products at the end of these lines. We have 3 machines, A, B, and C, which helps us in this process. The goal is to make as many products as possible, but also to make products that have a higher market value to sell them to areas on the map. For this player, it's easy to make this hand soap using the conveyor belts on the top line with algae that you have a tank for, and then this last spot here makes it easy to add some bio oil byproduct to your algae hand soap to make even more of it. It's another cube that is added at the very end of the line. But this is for the soap with the lowest market value. If you want better soap, it will cost you more time to process it, and no byproducts are added to it. Your toothpaste line also has two types. The better toothpaste has higher market value and can be done by using brown algae. With an added upgrade, you can add byproducts to the toothpaste as well for the less valuable kind, but it'll make more of it. The hand cream is the most valuable product that you make, and the market value can go up to 3 for just 1 jar of this stuff, but you can choose to process it longer or shorten the time and use energy to do so. So you will have to take actions to upgrade stuff, but let me just show you the possibilities of how you can be more efficient and choose how to make your cosmetics. You won't want to do everything as you won't have enough time to do that, so you will need to focus on a line or some processes to make the things that you use the most better. Machines start by pushing 2 algae cubes into the process of making something, and upgrading them with these tiles will increase that. And then if you get the engineer team upgrade as an export bonus as well, then you can flip that tile over to move even more, 5 algae when activating that machine. The cosmetic department is the only one with an upgraded machine capacity of 4 or even 5. So you will be pushing a lot of products along. Gaining conveyor belt upgrades can also help with an increase of capacity to your machines. You can upgrade algae storage for the other types of algae. Each has a different number of how many you can hold in that tank at a time. And the listed cost is shown on those tiles, which cost is in science points, which is shown on this track here. The most you can ever have is 10 on this track, and each time a player upgrades a tank on their player board, the same tank on the game board increases its capacity by 1 step. So here for machine 1, when it's activated, if you have 2 or 3 algae pass over 1 or more black and yellow conveyor belts, 1 of those cubes are then converted into biomass byproduct, which can be used to burn for energy or to gain some money. With 4 or more cubes, 2 of those are converted into biomass byproducts. With this upgrade tile, when 2 or 3 algae pass over it, then you can choose to convert 0, 1, or 2 cubes into biomass byproducts. Sometimes you might want to convert them, and sometimes you might not want to. This upgrade gives you some of that flexibility. Now also with this upgrade, when 4 or more come over, 1 will be converted, but you can then choose to do 2 or 3 if you would like. This upgrade says each time that you convert algae to byproducts from the same process I just explained, you place them in your tank and you receive coins and energy, so you get both of the possible choices. With this upgrade here, you can produce skin cream now with the brown algae. This upgrade says when you activate machine B, you can pay 1 energy to increase the machine's capacity by 1 so that you can move 1 extra cube. You can remove this tile to pay 1 energy to move 1 algae cube from the upper to the lower space, and then you can do this as many times as you want when activating machines C. You can add engineer upgrades here, which says when activating machine B and 1 or more algae cubes pass over the connected black and yellow conveyor belt to become toothpaste, you may add 1 or 2 bio oil byproducts, and these don't count towards the machine's capacity, so you will have more product when doing this. Producing the most valuable skin cream will always cost energy. You will have to pay 1 energy each time at least 1 algae cube moves over this conveyor belt, and sadly, this can never be undone by an upgrade. So remember to plan to use energy if using this. Now, after you get your algae cubes over to these product spaces, it's time to dispatch them to different areas on the map. For the player with the cosmetics department, they are the only player who cannot combine different types of products in one export. In each export, you can only use cubes of 1 product type, hand soap, toothpaste, or skin cream, and the market value of each cube is depicted next to each product type. But cubes within each product type can be combined in an export as desired. And by moving these tiles, you can increase the market value of each of the cubes in those areas as well, making it better. I will show you how to export these products here soon, but the last upgrade is making it so the cost to deliver your products from already visited locations become less expensive. So let's go over the gameplay. The game is played over a course of 4 weeks or 4 rounds. Each round representing a week and starts with a Monday morning phase where players receive income. And maybe this is the trick for better Mondays. The work week follows with 5 turns representing the 5 days in the week, and this is the meat in the game. And the round ends with a weekend phase where weekend bonuses are triggered and the cleanup is then performed for the next week. You will each start with a different department, and I will be making another video explaining the differences between the 4 departments. You will make a group of 1 staff member and 2 extra bonus tokens used to place on the locations on the board for each player playing in the game. And each player will start the game with an extra staff member and those bonuses. You get to choose them as you go around. Also, 3 contract cards are dealt out where you will be choosing a top, a middle, and a bottom part of each card to place in the contract area. The top section is a permanent ability that will be used for you and you only. The middle shows an export ability where instead of exporting to the map, you can export to this card to gain the shown rewards. And the bottom shows a way to score more points at the end of the game, again for you and you only. This one on my board that I've chosen is I get 2 points for each of the 5 milestone colors where I have achieved at least one of them by placing one of my cubes on one of those milestones. So that's kind of the gameplay setup. So now let's go through these steps. Monday morning, each player will gain €2 plus 1 more for each export disk removed from their board. These are placed on the map when you export your products to those locations. So the more exporting that you do, the more money that you can make come Monday morning. Also, you will earn victory points, and this starts with 0, but for each milestone cube that you remove, which are these cubes placed on these milestones here, for each time you get rid of one, it's 1 victory point come Monday morning. If you have removed both the export disk and the milestone cube, you have this tile to use when you would like. This will let you perform an action twice, so you can do more on your turn. But once you use it, you will lose the income from it, as you will remove it from your board after performing that 2x action. So hold on to them until you really see something worth doing with them, and you can only use one of these per turn. And then, as your board shows with the Roman numeral 1, you will gain 1 algae cube per operator on your player board. Everyone starts with 1, but you can gain more. They will give you more algae on Monday. You can gain any type of algae if the storage tank of that type is open on your board. You'll be taking these algae cubes from the board matching the same type, so there is a chance that a certain type runs out. But if that does happen, you can always buy a cube from the general supply for €1 each. Then, for each engineer that you have, you can move a cube along the black and yellow conveyor belt without activating the black and green arrow conveyor belts. This can speed up your production and can potentially help avoid production costs, but also you will miss out on possible byproducts. Lastly, for each scientist, you gain 1 science point, and this track again is limited to 10. And just like you can upgrade a lot of the other tiles on your board, these tiles too can be upgraded. Now, each operator will increase your income to 2 cubes per operator, moving 2 cubes on the conveyor belt for each engineer, or moving 2 spaces on your science track per scientist. This shouldn't be confused with when you're activating your operator or your scientists. At that time, it's still 1 each. This is just the Monday morning upgrade bonus. All right, now it's time for the work week. Again, this is the meat of the game. Each player has a worker placed on the bottom of this board here, and during a turn you will move your worker and then perform the action that you land on. Your choice will determine your options for the next turn and so on as you climb up on this board. So when moving a worker, you will have 2 options. You will move your worker, and then the shown icon is the chosen action that you can take. Now, there are some ways to get exactly what you want to by gaining certain tokens and using them, which I will explain here shortly. But if you don't have a token to use, and if you don't want to take the action that you landed on, then you can always instead take 1 question mark token, or €1 or 1 algae cube, or move 1 algae cube on your production line. If you move to a location and you don't really want to perform exactly what's there, then you can have some options depending on what you have. If you spend a wild token to change that action, you can do any other action that you want. So that's pretty good. You can spend a question mark token to do the same type of action, but changing the specifics. For example, if it's a team member action, then you have to do a team member action, but spend a question mark token to change the type of team member. Or if it's a machine activation, you spend your question mark token to change the machine activation to one that you want to activate instead of the one listed. Also, don't forget about the 2x tiles. They will let you take your action twice, and if you use your question mark token or wild token, you can change the first action and then take the normal action as shown. But using the 2x tokens, taking them off of your board, results in less income. So there are 3 main types of actions, and you can activate team members, you can activate machines, or you can recruit more staff members. So first, let's talk about activating team members. There is an icon that lets you activate any type on your team, or there are specific icons that show that you have to activate that type of team members. The first type to talk about is the operators. The operators will let you take new algae cubes, and you will take the number matching the number of operators that you have, and you'll place those new cubes in their matching storage spaces on the left of your player board. You can take algae of different species if you have the proper storage for those. So you get to choose what you want. If you don't want to take algae, the other option is to export. Obviously, to do this, you'll want to have cubes on the end of those lines represented by those products that you've made. And at first, depending on your setup, but for those playing for the first time, you will need to export to Berlin first. And then, since everyone works for the same company, Algae Inc., if other players have found customers in other cities, you can export to any city exported to for no cost. Or if you want to export to a new city to gain those bonuses listed on there, there is a transport cost that depends on the distance of that city from the nearest export disk on the map. And remember, players can upgrade this so that they can pay less to export to those further cities. Now, to export to a city, you will need to meet their minimum demand value depicted on its demand token. The demand value is shown on the player board in each of the shown product areas. Again, everyone except for the cosmetics department can combine cubes to meet that city's demand. Any excess is lost. The bioplastics department is especially encouraged to combine their cubes together, as it will significantly increase their market value doing so. This is a good time to mention a token that you can gain during the game as well. You can use one or more market value tokens to increase the market value of an algae cube, even if that market value of that cube is 0. When exporting, the cubes are placed in the general supply, and the topmost export disk of your science board is placed in that city. If there is a bonus token, you will take it from that city and use it whenever you want. If you export to a city that already has a disk there, you will just place yours on top. In the game, whenever you export to a city, you will always check your milestones right after. If you fulfill the milestone, you will take a cube from your player board and place it next to the achieved milestone and gain the points, if any. And you will always take the highest cube when doing this. After completing an export to one city, you can export to other cities if possible, but the number of cities that you may export to is limited to the number of operators that you currently have. It's good to export each week because if you export at least once in week 1, 2, and 3, you will receive the team upgrade in each of those weeks. When you have completely finished your activation of your operator, you can then check which bonus you gain for that week. And these are randomly placed out at setup, so they can be different each time you play. This operator team upgrade will let you flip over your operator upgrade tile next to your team roster. This will now let you take new algae cubes and do the export action in one action, in that order. If it's the engineer team upgrade, you will flip over all 3 engineer tiles that upgrade your machine's capacity, wherever they are. Or it might be the scientist team upgrade, which means whenever you activate your scientist, you will be able to gain science points and place science tiles in the same one action, in that order. When activating engineers, you will be taking tiles from your science board and placing them on the player board to improve production. This is a lot of those tiles that I explained earlier. For each engineer that you have, you gain 1 engineering point, and for each freelance engineer token that you might have, you can spin those. That gives you additional points. The cost of the tiles vary between 0 and 3, and they're shown on the science board on the left side of that grid. You can take any number of tiles up to the number of engineers that you have, as long as you have the amount of points as well. Most tiles have a dedicated field on your player board matching its shape. If there is more than one field of the same shape, then you can choose where to place it. Overall, engineer tiles improve your production line, and removing them from your science board also frees up space to place science tiles there, which I will explain here soon. The last type to activate are your scientists, and you can either gain science points or place science tiles. For each scientist that you have, add 1 science point to your track, or when placing science tiles, you can remove a science tile of your choice from your player board and place it on your science board, and the cost varies between 2 to 5 science points, which is shown on the left side of that grid again. Whatever bonuses you cover up with the science tiles, you will gain them and be able to use them whenever you want. This is how you remove your science tiles from the algae stores, and when doing this, you move that marker of that algae type up 1 space on that main board again. So sometimes this gets a little confusing, but engineers move tiles from here to here, and scientists will move tiles from here to here. Moving to the next type of actions, which is activating your machines. Now, this action lets you move your algae cubes along the machine's conveyor belt up to the machine's maximum capacity. Remember, there are upgrade tiles, and those can also be flipped over to become even more powerful. And when activating a machine, you will activate both black and yellow and black and green conveyor belts. The black and green conveyor belts might be activated a little bit differently. They might have a path. They might add in byproducts to, become a unit, or they might be used to move from different storage units. So there is this action shown on the first and last strip where you can activate any machine of your choice, or it will have a letter listed showing the exact machine that gets activated. When activating machine A, many times you will lose a cube to be converted into a byproduct. Upgrading this tile will give you better options to be able to change that. But again, I already explained how you choose from, burning the byproduct for energy or placing it in the tank to gain the money. So machine A moves cubes from storage tanks to machine B. Machine B moves cubes to C, and machine C moves the products to be made into the final product and placed into the selling departments. Remember, at times, it might be worth adding byproducts to machine B or C's line to make even more final products, or sometimes it might not be. The last type of action that I want to talk about is recruiting more staff members. You will take the staff member of your choice from the general supply and add it to your team roster in its matching row in the leftmost spot, and you will pay the applicable cost shown above it. You will also take the bonus token and or immediately score the points where you placed the new tile. Again, operators will help you gain more algae. They will help you export. Engineers will help you gain upgrade tiles to move algae cubes along your processes. And scientists will help you gain more science points and place science tiles on the grid. After 5 turns, you will make it to the top of this track and the weekend then begin. Everyone will check their energy levels to determine if they get their weekend bonuses. If the energy is positive, they will get both bonuses on each side of their worker. If in the neutral level, they will choose one of the bonuses to take. And if in the negative section, that player will not get any bonus. This bonus might be 2 science points, a question mark token, freelance engineer token, or a market value token. All workers are removed and then placed at the beginning of this board again, and the week marker is moved up to the next week. That action strip next to the week marker is then flipped over to its other position. The export bonus tile from the previous week is turned over face down as it's done with. If at the start of the 4th week, then the weekend bonus tiles are all flipped to their B side. All algae tanks are filled up to their capacity from cubes from the supply. And if the byproduct tanks are filled completely, 1 cube is removed. If empty, 1 cube is placed in there. Then check the difference between the tanks, and if there's a difference of 2 or more filled rows, move byproducts from the most filled tank to the other tank until the difference is a maximum of 1 filled row. The first player token is then passed to the next player clockwise to start the next week, which would be Monday morning. Payday. At the end of the fourth week, the weekend phase is skipped and final scoring takes place instead. You will still check energy levels and you will gain the end of month bonuses. When in the positive, you will score the bonuses by multiplying the shown victory points by the number of milestones that you have completed of the depicted color type. If in neutral energy area, you choose one of the same, and if negative, you gain no bonus. This last choice will cause you to, see how many milestones you have completed and how many of each color type and multiply it by the shown points to maybe decide your last movement. You will then also score 1 point per removed milestone cube from your player board, 1 point for each science tile in the largest set of adjacent science tiles that you built on your science board. You will score your in-game scoring contract. And lastly, you will score 1 point for each 4 leftover items of algae cubes on your player board, bonus tokens, resource tokens, and science points. The player then with the most points wins the game. And, well, that's Algae Inc. It's an asymmetric economic Eurogame about using the algae in different processes to make different products. Each player manages a different sector of the same company, and you'll be trying to hit milestones before other departments do and making your own processes better to have more success. You won't be able to upgrade everything, and you will need to determine your path of victory with how your department functions and works. Again, this is a medium-heavy strategy game using resource management, tableau building, multi-processing. You will be making decisions as to if and when you hire more staff or upgrade your tiles to gain more benefits. It's interesting to take actions to move some tiles from one board to the other board to make your conveyor belts better or machines better. But then you move the tiles on that board to the other board to gain more storage for algae or increase the market value of those products. Or by, exporting your products cheaper out there. You'll be racing to achieve milestones to gain points, but also taking export discs and mile cubes off of your board, and it will give you better income come Monday morning. Your moves will affect your production, and sometimes you will need to use actions to increase energy to use that energy later in your processes. Or you might know you could really benefit from weekend bonuses as well, being in the positive energy level. That's always good. The player interaction is done by the main board mostly. You will be competing for the supply of different types of algae. You might be able to use a specific type to make a better product, but if another player also wants that same type, you might need a plan B. Then you will be competing to place export discs on different cities, racing to complete the milestones as well, but then you are the same company, and you can also benefit from players exporting to those specific cities as well. Now, I will say, yes, there is a lot of parts, and forming a strategy will just, take time with this game. But I think there is a lot of enjoyment to be had with this one. And after you think you have mastered a department, there are 3 others that you'll be able to experience as well. I'm not sure what other products are made with algae, supplements or fertilizer. After Googling it, I also found food coloring and running shoes. That's on the list. So I'm sure there is a way to add to, the departments or make new ones as well. But besides playing as different departments, the game also has different tokens to be used, to be placed on different cities, to change the map each time, different milestones, the action board changes as the game progresses, and different contract cards might sway you to play differently as well. Maybe even your starting staff member and bonuses that you gain at the beginning of the game will change your strategy. One of the best things I really like about this game is that even though in real life these processes might be more complex than, what's shown on the table or on these boards, they are real processes of using algae to make products. And I think this game has a lot to offer, and I expect it to be received very well. If you have any questions, please leave them below and I'll try to answer them the best that I can about the game. Again, this is Brody with Let's Table It, where we get games to the table. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We are new and working hard to bring to you videos like this one so you know if these games are ones that you want to get to your own table.